My mouth tastes like what I imagine a goat would taste like. Like, have you ever had goat cheese and it has that really like feathery taste? I can like taste that in the back of my throat, so that's fun. Hey you guys, what's up? My name is Jerica Burnett and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm doing a full face of the cheapest makeup that I could find at Beauty Bay. So this video is going to be perfect for a beginner in makeup if you're just getting started and you want to create a full face of makeup, but you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on the makeup that you get. So I'm going to let you guys know how I go with these products, if I like them, if I don't like them, and I think I'm just going to create a really simple look. So let's get started. Okay, so when I'm doing a client's makeup or I'm doing an advanced makeup look on myself, I'll usually start with my eyes, but since today's look is most likely going to be a really simple, kind of everyday makeup look, I'm going to start with my face instead. So the first product I have here is a primer, and this is the Ordinary High Adherence Silicone Primer, and I got mine for $8.75. So it's very affordable, but I have actually heard a lot of really good things about it. So let's give it a go. So it doesn't really have a smell. This is what it looks like. It's just white. Let's see what it feels like. Oh, it's kind of thicker than I thought it was going to be. It kind of feels like a moisturizer, but a little bit more thick. So usually when I see the word silicone, I think it's going to be good at filling pores. Because it kind of acts like putty, so if you have open pores, it sort of fills them in before you go in with your foundation. This feels very smoothing. Okay, so I'm just reading the website now, and it says that this primer is supposed to be used under makeup to improve longevity, which means it's supposed to make it last longer. And it uses advanced silicones to act as a matte, hydrating, blurring primer. Matte and hydrating are interesting because I don't usually go together. But I do agree that it's definitely hydrating. It feels like I've just put a really lightweight moisturizer on, but I wouldn't necessarily call it matte. I think it has more of a satin finish over anything else. But yeah, I don't really have much to report on that as of yet. I'll see if it makes my makeup last any longer than usual. And let's move on to the next product. So the next product is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation, and I got mine for $9.25. I got the complete wrong shade for me because I didn't know how to color match on the website. So mine is far too tan for my skin tone. This would probably be a better color if somebody has a fake tan. As you can see here, this is the kind of color that I'd probably use if I had a fake tan. But for today's video, I'm just going to talk about the formula of the foundation rather than anything else. It comes on this little spatula thing, so I assume you just sort of use that to, oh my goodness, look at how much darker it is than my face. This is not good. This is not good. I look like a pumpkin. So I'm just going to start off with one dip into the foundation, which is what I have on my face right now, and see how much coverage that gives me at first. I have a little bit of a breakout situation happening on the lower half of my chin, so it'd be good to test the coverage of it. Alright, so the website says it is supposed to create a your skin, only better effect, and it is specifically made with a matte, light diffusing complex to give your skin no filter perfection. Okay, so this is what my face is looking like with one little scoop of the foundation. If it was my color, I feel like that would probably be enough, and if I didn't have this breakout situation happening down here, it would definitely be enough, but because it's not my color, you can kind of see like my skin, my actual skin color peeking through in certain places. And I obviously have to bring it down my neck because otherwise I'm going to look insane. So I'm going to go in with another scoop of it. And I'm going to build it up over my breakout and see if it's kind of buildable. So I would say the coverage is medium, but it is buildable. Like as you can see, I just went over with the second layer. And it's not really getting overly cakey or textured or anything. It builds quite nicely actually. Look at how orange my face is compared to my neck. It's ridiculous. And I'm literally bringing that like all down my chest because I'm so pale. I feel like if I did have a fake tan, this color would actually be really good for me. So again, this is the shade Golden Beige. So if you are naturally really tan, then you might want this shade. If you're naturally my skin tone, I would definitely recommend going a few shades lighter than this, like 2 or 3 shades lighter. I actually really like the finish of it. I feel like it hasn't emphasized any of my texture. Like obviously I do have texture peeking through because I have a pretty bad breakout at the moment, but it hasn't made it any worse. So I do agree that it's matte, but the good thing about this foundation isn't overly matte. Like it hasn't made my skin look really dry and cakey, which can happen quite easily for my skin because it is more on the dry side. So if you have dry skin but you prefer more of a matte look, then this foundation may be for you. Okay, so the next product I have is also from the brand Wet n Wild. A lot of these products are either going to be from the brand Wet n Wild or from the brand Revolution. So this is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Concealer, and I got mine in the shade Light Ivory. So let's just do a little swatch here. Oh no. This one is probably better for my skin tone, but it is definitely a pink undertone. And since the foundation has such like a golden undertone, I feel like it's going to look kind of strange together. But that's alright, we'll just give it a go. So I'm just going to put a little dab here, and also going to drag that out on the outer corner like that. So since this concealer is a few shades lighter than my skin tone, I'm going to use it as a highlight underneath my eyes. So you wouldn't put this on blemishes because it will just bring more attention to that area. Okay, so I've just highlighted underneath my eyes, down the bridge of my nose, on the center of my forehead, and on the center of my chin. And I'm taking a damp sponge. This one's from the brand Morphe. And I am just blending that out. I haven't purchased the cheapest sponges and the cheapest brushes, which is probably, it would definitely make a difference to the application, so I'm kind of cheating. But I wasn't going to spend a whole bunch of money on brushes and sponges that I probably would never use again. I feel like it's blending out pretty nicely. It doesn't look overly thick. It is quite a thin formula. It isn't very dewy. It's definitely more of a matte finish. And I think it's too early to know whether or not it's going to set in my creases. So I'll have to look at the website and see what its claims are. So the website says, let your natural beauty shine with our selfie-tested, creamy and luminous concealer. I definitely wouldn't go as far as saying it's luminous. As I said, it's probably more of a satin finish. And I would actually say it's more on the matte side than on the luminous side. But let me have a look up close. Yeah, I don't really see what they're saying when they're saying it's luminous. As for the coverage, I would say it's pretty light to medium coverage. Like you can definitely still see some of my blue under my eyes peeking through. That being said, I didn't color correct, but also I don't really have too much blue under my eyes. Like I don't have really dark, deep bags or anything. So if you're similar to me and you don't really have too much of an issue under your eyes, then this concealer might work out for you. But if you have really dark, deep bags under your eyes, this might not be enough coverage for you. I'm also just going to pack a little bit of that onto my eyelids to act as a primer. I usually do use an eye primer, but I didn't feel the need to buy it, especially because this video is targeted at beginners. I feel like it's not a necessity to have an eye primer in your beginner kit. So I'm just going to use the concealer as my eye primer. For powder, I got this one by the brand Revolution. It is called their Matte Base Powder, and I got it in the shade P2. And this one is $7.75. I don't know if I told you how much the concealer was, but in case you're interested, the concealer was $6. Whoa, okay, so it has quite a bit of kick up, which means it's a really finely milled powder. And this one is actually probably better for my natural skin tone as opposed to the shade of the foundation. So hopefully it will help to sort of lighten it up a little bit. So on the website it says it is the ultimate everyday powder. It's silky soft and pigmented, and it creates an effortlessly natural finish. It does a good job of mattifying the face. Like I can feel it so much less tacky than up on my forehead. But that being said, you can tell it's not like a luxurious powder. Like you can see when I just rub my brush in it, like how much kick up comes off. Like my whole table is covered in powder and my shirt. But for a beginner in makeup, I feel like this will definitely get the job done. So one of the tricks I like to use with powder is, first of all, you pat it on to make sure that the foundation is set, and then after that you can go in with more of a swiping or a round motion with your brush. And the reason I do that is because if you go straight in with a round motion with the brush, it will just stick straight to where you put the foundation if you don't set it first. So my first thoughts on the powder is it actually has a little bit more coverage than I was anticipating for it to have. As you can see, my face looks a little bit more of my natural skin tone now rather than bright orange, and that's because the powder was lighter than the foundation. Alright, so moving on to bronzer, and this is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer, and it's in the shade Ticket to Brazil. So the first thing I noticed is that the packaging is obviously very like cheap and flimsy. I mean, obviously, I paid, how much did I pay? $6.95. So if the product is good, then that's where they've saved their money, is on the packaging. Let me do a quick little swatch. Oh, it's okay. So it's a lot more like luminous than I was expecting it to be. Luminous? Oh no. So I would say on my natural skin tone, this would probably be a good bronzer because as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but it is very light in tone. So it'd be good for anyone that's very pale, but still wants that warm undertone, because I feel like a lot of bronzers for pale skin is actually like more of a cool undertone, more of a contour. Whereas this one is that warm undertone, but it's very, very pale, and it seems like it's, whoops. And it seems like it's gonna be pretty buildable. However, with my skin in the state that it's in at the moment, I feel like it's gonna be way too light and kind of act more as just like a second powder, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna try it out. Okay, it does seem pretty pigmented. And I start up at the top of my cheekbone. And since it's a bronzer, it's not a contour, I'm gonna bring it more onto the apple of my cheek rather than like trying to contour with it. So bring it onto the cheek, on the forehead, and a little tiny bit underneath my chin. So with bronzer, you go in the places that the sun would naturally hit. Where do you naturally get tan? It's always the very top of your forehead, on your cheeks, and on your nose. Because my foundation is so very, very orange, I feel like you can barely see it. I think I just got the wrong shade. Like if I would have known that my foundation was gonna be so dark for me, I probably would have gotten a darker bronzer. So it's very, very subtle. Like I don't even know, can you see a difference? So this is the side that has bronzer on it, and this is the side without bronzer. The bronzer claims that it gives the skin a natural glow that lasts all day long. Apparently it glides on like a cream and it sets like a powder. Okay, I feel like this isn't the best way to represent this bronzer because it's being used on so much of a darker skin tone than I thought it was going to be being used on. So it is very subtle, definitely luminous. So if you have dry skin but still prefer a powder bronzer, then this is probably for you. But I've been sitting here building it up for about 5 minutes and I really can barely see it still. I can see the reflect that it creates on my cheek, so like right here. I can see that, but it doesn't have enough color payoff for me at the moment. So this is probably the first fail, but as I said, I like the bronzer. I feel like it's a good formula. I just feel like I got the wrong shade. Let's move on to blush. So this is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Blush, and it's in the shade Mellow Wine, and I got it for $6 from Beauty Bay. Okay. So we're just gonna have to create more of a blushy look as opposed to a bronze look because this is definitely pigmented. Okay. So this one is completely matte. It doesn't have any sort of shimmer in it. The blush is very pigmented, and since they're from the same range, like both Color Icon, I assume if the bronzer was the right shade for me, it'd probably be just as pigmented, but I might be assuming incorrectly. So with that blush, I'm just gonna kind of create that really like sun-kissed effect. So I'm bringing it all the way from the top of the cheekbone, onto the cheek, and even onto the nose as well. So this is just like that really summery, fresh effect. I really like the shade of this blush. It's kind of unlike anything I have in my collection at the moment. This silky smooth powder strikes the perfect balance between a blendable, transparent sheen and a radiant pop of maximum color. Lightweight, long-lasting, and certain to impress. I feel like a transparent sheen and maximum color are complete opposites, so I don't know which one they're trying to market it as. For me, I feel like it's definitely pigmented, so I would say it's maximum color, going with a light hand, but it does blend out quite easily. So even though I put it on and it was like boom when I first put it on, now that I've blended it out, it doesn't look as crazy. It definitely still is like very blushy looking, but I don't mind that look for a bit of a summery feeling look. And also blush is the first thing that always fades on me and on most people, so we'll see how it looks by the end of the day. Okay, now we're gonna move on to highlighter. This one is in the shade Dare to Divulge. So I'm just gonna do a little swatch of that. And this is what it looks like on my finger. Sort of like a champagne-y, more of a pink undertone than anything else, which I feel like is gonna work with this look since the blush is so pigmented. I'm gonna take that on a little small fluffy brush like this, just tap off the excess. And I'm just gonna put that where the light naturally hits. So when I move my face around, you can sort of see it hits on the tops of my cheekbones, a little bit on my forehead, and also on my nose. So I'm gonna start with that. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, so the website describes the highlighter as a silky powder that is used to create a high-impact, flattering shimmer, and you can blend it out for a seamlessly radiant finish. I really actually like that. It's definitely more of a pink shade than I think I would usually go for, but I feel like especially with this look, it does work quite well. So one way that you can tell if your highlighter is the right color for you, if you look straight forward, you shouldn't be able to see it pretty much at all. And then when you turn to the side, that's when you sort of get that really glowy effect. And that's how you can tell if the highlighter is the right shade for you. I always find a lot of cheaper or like more affordable highlighters kind of create like an ashy undertone on my skin. Whereas I feel like this one, it hasn't yet. And I'm really just like buffing that into the skin so it doesn't look like just a straight stripe across my cheek. I'm also gonna bring that a tiny bit on my nose. I don't like to highlight my nose too much. Don't want to bring too much attention to the beak, and on my cupid's bow as well. The one thing that I'm definitely noticing about the highlighter is that it is bringing out my texture in the areas that I've put it, which is bound to happen because it obviously highlights that area. So if you have texture there, it's going to show the texture, but I do feel like it's doing it just a little bit more than my day-to-day highlighter, which is the Mary Luminizer by The Balm. Okay, so for highlighters, I feel like there's kind of two categories. There's the highlighter that has really obvious shimmer particles in it, and it definitely creates that like crazy bam in your face highlight where you put it on and you're like, holy crap, that's a lot of highlighter. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is more of like a lit from within, really finely milled powder, and it kind of just creates that nice seamless glow. And I feel like this powder is kind of a mix between them. Like I feel like if you build it up, it will be very, very in your face. Whereas I feel like if you just put a light dusting over the top of the cheekbones and really sort of blend it in, it's gonna create a little bit more of that lit from within feeling to your face. I'm not the biggest fan of this highlighter because, as I said, it does show a little bit of my texture. But for a beginner, I feel like it would be a good highlighter to start off with because you can sort of get both effects from it. Okay, so this is my base all complete, and I actually do really like it. For it being budget-friendly, affordable makeup, I feel like you wouldn't really be able to tell. Like if I didn't tell you that all of the products on my face were under $10, I don't think you'd be able to guess that. So I'm pretty happy with the base makeup. The one thing I do wish I could change is just having that little bit more of a bronze effect. But as I said, that is completely my fault. I should have just gotten a tiny bit of a darker bronzer for this foundation. So yeah, let's move on to the eyes. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this far into the video. I just thought I would quickly pop in and let you know that this video ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. So instead, I've decided to break it into two parts. So this is part one where I applied my base makeup, and in part two, I'm going to be doing my eyes and my lips. So stay tuned until Thursday because that's when part two is coming out. I will see you then, and until then, enjoy the adventure. Bye. Whose idea was it for me to wear a white shirt while filming with new foundation and new powder? She's not the brightest. I would agree with most of those claims.